Joining us now is New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. Governor Murphy, good to have you back on the show. A lot to talk about, but just in terms of the virus numbers, I mean, I read the deaths, but it looks like hospitalizations and cases do continue to stabilize. How's the reopening going of the economy? What is activity like?
Listen, so far so good, Sarah, but we're going to be digging out of this as an economic matter. My guess is for years. We've deliberately based the decisions on the data. We've deliberately reopened sort of incrementally, and we've had a heavy dose of favoring outdoor activities over indoor. We're still not there on indoor dining, and we all know this, but the virus is a lot more lethal inside than it is outside. You're absolutely right. Our hospital systems are in a lot stronger condition than they were at the peak of this. They did a great job, by the way, at every step. But you look at the rest of the country, and you won't be surprised to hear that our mindset is we're not out of the woods yet.
Not out of the woods yet with this wave. And then there are some severe warnings for the fall from our medical experts about flu season and about a season where it won't be as easy to dine outdoors. How are you preparing for that?
Carefully. I mean, our Department of Education and Department of Health put out I think as comprehensive a roadmap in terms of principles to get back to school. We've asked our districts to put their plans together and come back to us with them, just as we did when we closed schools. We've got challenges, everything from the digital divide, which we need to address, to a reliance on hot meals through schools for so many of our kids, to the reality of the virus. You know, the hardest nut to crack is to prevent that asymptomatic, otherwise healthy, unwittingly, young kid unwittingly passing the virus to an older educator, administrator, someone with comorbidities. That's our big challenge, I think, in the school setting. I hope we can get indoors more broadly, but we've got to do this very carefully, and we can't jump the gun.
What's your latest advisory for travel in and out of the state, and kind of how uncomfortable is it to have to impose that sort of guidance when you want everyone to be able to travel freely across the country? And what should be the punishment if people break the guidance you're giving on that front?
Yeah, it doesn't bring us a lot of joy, Wilfred. I mean, this is the United States of America. Constitutionally, we can't stop someone at the border of our state. It's about the only time in my life that I ever thought I'd say that I wish we could build a wall around either our state or our region, but we can't. So the mindset is very simple. If you've been in a hotspot state, and we now number 22 of them, and that's based on rolling 7-day averages of data, we want folks to self-quarantine for 14 days and get tested. We are reaching to people's personal responsibility, as we have since day one in this pandemic, and folks in our state have done the right thing. So this is both visitors as well as New Jerseyans who have traveled to those states and are coming back. We don't have a blanket penalty, but the Department of Health and the commissioner has the right and the ability to target non-compliant behavior. And while we hope for personal responsibility and good behavior, we won't hesitate to use that.
Wanted to follow up, Governor Murphy, on your school plans. It sounds like you're still working them out, and there might be some in-person learning, but not fully. I mean, why not? When most of the studies show, and also some examples in Europe show, that it can work to bring students back to school, and when President Trump has threatened to pull federal funding if you don't.
Yeah, I'm not. The threats are not our consideration. Our consideration is public health, mental health, education. No, our default, Sarah, I want to make sure I'm clear on this. Our strong desire is to get back to school. We agree with the points on the richness of education being in person, but we've got to do it responsibly. So just as I mentioned, just as when we closed our school systems, our school districts are very localized. We've got almost 600 of them. So we had them give us their plan for closure. We've given them broad parameters in terms of how to reopen. And likewise, we're asking for their plans to reopen. No school district, no two school districts are exactly alike. And so we want to respect that. But we also expect them to stay within the broad parameters that we've laid out.
I guess, Governor, that your numbers at the moment are better than some states, and that's great to see. And you've also gone further than some governors as it relates to masks. That said, with hindsight, do you wish you'd enacted stricter rules on masks earlier?
Well, it's hard to say that we could have been stricter indoors. We were the #1 state in America to ban them indoors. Frankly, outdoors, the virus is a lot less lethal, but we know it is still lethal. And frankly, we also don't want to put in place things that are really hard to enforce. And so that, at the end of the day, we said, you know what, both as a role model fact, in particular when you've got folks outdoors and they can't properly social distance, and that's our mandate. It's not if you're on your own street walking your dog and you're by yourself. We frankly don't care about that. I care and we care about you're on the boardwalk on the Jersey Shore, you're in line to get a slice of pizza, you're on top of each other, there's not really good ventilation. We want you to be wearing a face covering.
Yeah, there are a lot of crowds at the Jersey Shore, according to social media and some of those pictures, Governor. But finally, just wanted to ask you about budgets and layoffs. And while this continues to be a political football in Washington over whether states get aid, what are your plans? And what kind of layoffs and cuts are we going to see, and which jobs are going to be affected in the state?
They'll be dramatic, and they'll be exactly the jobs we can't afford to lose right now in the extreme hour of our residents' need. It'll be frontline workers, firefighters, police, EMS, healthcare, educators. It's unfathomable. So we need, beyond the shadow of any doubt, it's not just a blue state issue. It's not just a so-called legacy state issue. It's not just the Northeast. Any American state that's been hit by this, and by the way, it's overwhelmingly all of us, every state needs direct federal cash assistance to allow us to continue to employ these vitally needed folks, to allow our state to get back on its feet, to help our small businesses, restaurants. We have no other choice.